and this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to your situation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast producers or sponsors. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy or completeness of the content. Hi, my name is Bella Carrasco, and helping others feel more comfortable about investing brings a huge smile to my face. After working in the private equity, family office, and securities markets for nearly a decade, I pulled together my resources to interview experts in each area of the due diligence process and answer how do you know questions when considering your future financial safety. We go deep into questions about many phases of the investment process, with the goal of helping you go from practice to game time confidently. This is the How Do You Know podcast. All right, today we are talking about due diligence, and it's important to do due diligence because you want to remain educated, and that is a very important way to remain confident in your investment decisions. And I am so excited to have Gabriel on board today. He is fully sustained by passive income and has had to review several deals in order to do so. So I will let him go over his background, but he now helps others achieve the same through his group, Intentional Capitalist. So Gabriel, if you could tell us more about Intentional Capitalist and just provide a brief overview on who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Isabella. So I am not traditionally an investor. I was medical for the last 15 years. That was my training in school. And so that's all I did. Fortunately, one of my partners invested alongside of what we did, and I kind of picked up where he was doing, and I thought that was interesting. He was making extra money on the side and didn't seem stressed with all the patients that we had in clinic, and so I wanted to do that too. And very fortunate for me, he was very successful and very diligent about performing all of the research before getting into a deal. He's very conservative with his underwriting as well, and that was the type of training that I had going into all this stuff. So I started investing alongside with him, and over time, it just surpassed my medical income and gave me the options to retire from medicine early. So I started a group called Intentional Capitalists because we invest with intention. We're very diligent about our research, and we don't FOMO into any deal. We're very conservative with our underwriting, and we see a lot of deals, and not all the deals are good. And so we always want to make sure that we're doing all of the proper steps to get to the right point in the future. And so now I reach out. Most of my members are physicians just because we don't have that training in medicine. And so I've been helping a lot of clinicians get into the investing world. And then just by word of mouth, we've been able to reach other people and help others get a certain degree of financial freedom.
I'm sure a lot can resonate with that story, and I love the FOMO word that you used. If you could just start off by explaining what your overall due diligence process is for making the investment decision, and then maybe even start with why due diligence is even important to begin with.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So when I first get deals, I'm plugged into a couple different networks, and I get deals throughout the day. And so when I first look at a deal, I'm just doing a broad overview, looking at some key metrics, things that your audience has heard of probably for IRR, internal rate of return, cap rates, NOI, things like that. We're all looking at certain metrics. And if it passes that first screening test, then I start drilling into what the sponsor of the deal is and what type of track record they have, if I've done a deal with them before, and what level of success they've had, if they've done this type of deal before, not just any proposal. And then I start going into background research on the sponsor. One of my mentors always said, never do a good deal with a bad sponsor. You know, a good sponsor can take a mediocre deal and make it shine. So that's kind of what we do. We want to make sure that the operator knows what they're doing and the deal works. So we start going into background on the operators. We'll do background checks. The group that we use is very thorough. They jokingly say they will find out if you got caught smoking under the bleachers in high school. And so I kind of take that to heart. They find some really good stuff going all the way down through even social media. looking for adverse comments, something that could affect an investment down the line. And so we go through a thorough background search, looking for criminal things, bankruptcies, even other entities that they may be using to shelter money or other investments. And then we also check out the so-called assets that they have. We'll go into the financials and make sure that they have got a reasonable financial history. And depending upon the type of deal, if they're asking for money from us, we want to know that they have some skin in the game as well. If they're not willing to invest their own money in their deal, then that is less likely that I'm interested in that as well. So given all that stuff, we'll kind of go through the whole gamut of background stuff, financials. FINRA has a nice database that's publicly accessible to look for any problems that people have had in the past that have been violations. So we'll go through that, just making sure that we've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's before we even start drilling down. I've put together a due diligence guidebook, and I'll make that available to your audience as well. If they go to my website, intentionalcapitalist.com/free, you can download it for free. It's about 50 pages, but you'll notice the first 37 pages is all about evaluating the sponsor. And the rest of it is about how to look at a deal and kind of see if a deal is going to work for you. But once we get through the sponsor, then we start looking at the deal. Now, when I'm looking at a deal specifically, I'm looking at a couple different criteria. I always look at what this deal is going to do for me. It has a job to do, whether it's to generate cash flow, to build equity, or to provide some sort of tax incentive. And I like the combination of them all. That's usually the best fit. But I like to see what the deal is going to do. And I'm looking at different metrics. I have my own spreadsheet, and I plug things into it from the operator or the sponsor's operating memorandum, just to make sure that the numbers work that they say they will. And that has been pretty reliable for me, at least for my track record.
These are great and so many helpful nuggets. And so thanks for sharing, and
Yeah, sure.
definitely provide the link to your due diligence document. That's certainly going to be helpful too. Are you able to provide the name of the background check
Oh, yeah,
service that you used?
absolutely. They're called VCheck Global. They're
Okay.
affordable and extremely thorough, and I recommend them wholeheartedly.
And when you say that you look at the financials,
Mhm.
are they audited financials, or is that really not necessary?
Yeah, it depends on the type of deal. I do like to see audited third-party financials just to make sure that you know anybody can generate a spreadsheet of what they've got, and you'd have to take their word for it. But if you have an independent firm evaluating some other entity, there's a little bit more credence to that. Now, I mean, you remember some of the stuff with Enron and Anderson Financial in the past. Accounting firms make mistakes too, but if there's another set of eyes that have some sort of credibility, that gives me a whole lot more confidence moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of Enron, if a sponsor has gone through a bankruptcy, is it kind of like an automatic no, or do you just try to dig into it a little bit
It,
further?
it really just depends. My caution level is elevated if they have some sort of financial problems in the past. But depending upon how long ago it was, or what was the cause of it, and if there's resolution and they've recovered from it, also depending upon what other financial partners are involved in the deal, it's not a deal killer all automatically. Good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And then in terms of underwriting, do you expect the sponsor to provide the underwriting? Or if they don't want to provide it, then you're kind of okay with that?
I have high expectations of sponsors, especially if it's someone I haven't dealt with before. I ask a lot of questions of them, and almost as a test. If they're not willing to answer my questions before I give them money, then I can't expect them to answer my questions after I've given them money for the investment. So I ask a lot of questions of the sponsor beforehand. I'd like to get on a conference call with them, other principals, even previous investors with that sponsor, just so that I can ask them, how many deals have you done with this sponsor? Have you seen deals go all the way through and exit? Would you be a repeat investor with this sponsor? Those are the types of things I'm looking for to give a proven track record of success. if I'm not familiar with the sponsor. Now, with other deal makers that I've done deals with in the past that do deals with me that I'm comfortable with, that are very transparent with their financials, I've already gone through with a fine tooth comb. I'm a little bit more lenient with those questions at the beginning, but I still do my own underwriting of the deal and make sure it works. And I'm not the end all be all when it comes to looking at all these things. I know I have my downsides. I don't know it all. And so I tap into my network of people that do know what they're doing. And I get help for the things that I don't know, for sectors I'm not familiar with, or for different entities. I really want to make sure that we're getting all of the experts online so that we can make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And I know we've had a conversation too about, okay, how do you get into industries that you don't know so well? And I think you just alluded to it right there, is just reaching out to those experts in the industry and really kind of combining forces, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where the power is with all this stuff is networking with people that all have the same focus. You've heard me say this before. I'm investment agnostic, meaning that it doesn't have to be multifamily or oil and gas or venture capital. If it has a goal of generating income or creating wealth, then I'm interested in it. And I don't know about all those things all at once, and so I've been very fortunate that over the last decade and a half, I've created some really good relationships with experts in the field that know what they're doing a whole lot more than me. And so I can depend on them to have another set of eyes look at the deal and make sure that it does pencil out the way it's supposed to.
And that reminds me of something that you pointed out earlier, which is every deal has a job for me. And
Mhm.
I love that line because I feel like a lot of us can maybe just chase high IRRs, and then kind of in hindsight, you're like, oh, I didn't really need that at the moment, or whatever
Right?
it may be. So I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
aside
Absolutely.
from the overall due diligence process, are there any gotcha moments that you've had to look out for? Because I know that there's a PPM, an investment summary, and sometimes they're aligned, but maybe sometimes they're not. So, not sure if you've ever run into that.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes there is a misalignment and stuff, and I'll call the sponsor and I'll ask them to clarify for sure. When I think of gotcha moments, it's where I got caught off guard and something. And one thing that I can recall recently, there was a deal where the the deal sponsor only wanted to talk to one person in the whole line of things, and didn't want to take calls from me or other investors. And that was a little bit of a red flag to me. There were in hindsight other red flags that I ignored because I guess I would say my greed got the best of me. The deal was promising 36% annual rate
Mhm.
of return, and that was really exciting. And when I first put money in, it started spitting out really great returns. And then all of a sudden, things dried up. And that lack of communication from the beginning has carried through. And that's one of the lessons I've learned. Again, if they're not going to be open with communication at the beginning, then there's no way they're going to be open with communication after I've given them the money.
Oh, that's so good. And yeah, I was going to say hindsight is 2020. So,
Mhm.
is there anything else that you would have missed or that would have been a warning in that situation?
Yeah, and this for this particular deal, there were a couple of red flags. One of them was the lawyer that was representing the deal sponsor only wanted to deal with wet signatures on paper documents,
Mm,
which I thought was a little bit strange in the days of DocuSign, where you can send off anything at a moment. They only
sure.
wanted wet signatures, and I thought that was a little strange, but I grew up before the days of technology and DocuSign, so I thought, well, maybe they're just old school. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. There was, and it turns to come to find out it was for different reasons. They didn't want to violate any sort of electronic commerce rules or whatever because they were a little bit
Mm,
shady. And so,
I
yeah, lessons
see.
learned.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I know sometimes for me, it's not even my experience that could be noteworthy. It could be a friend's experience. Do you
Yeah.
have anyone that you know that has something crazy that's happened, maybe?
Yeah, my friend Tom, who is my mentor with all this stuff, early on when I was investing with him, he would tell me these stories all the time about. different deals that he got involved in. And I always just remember these little passages he would say. When he first started investing, he thought he knew better. He did his own research. He was, he was a surgeon also, so he thought he knew it all with that particular thing. And someone older and wiser came along and said, "Hey, this doesn't look so great. Maybe you should, pump the brakes a little bit." And he thought, "No, I know better." And he went ahead with the deal anyway, and the deal didn't pan out the way it was supposed to. So the lesson learned is, listen to the people who have the experience, who have gone through this
Yeah.
multiple cycles, and can recognize some of those red flags that we're not used to seeing. You just don't know what you don't know.
And to take that even a step further, it's finding those people, right? And
Right.
asking them to mentor you and do those sorts of things.
100%.
What would you say is the weirdest thing you ask for or consider? Because I know for me,
Yeah.
I guess the weirdest thing I probably ask for is questions about the business itself,
Mhm.
not necessarily that specific opportunity, which I just want to know that they're going to be even around in 3, 4,
Right.
5 years, however long. So I don't know if you have a good answer for that.
Yeah, I can think of a couple of examples right off. There was a VC deal I was looking at, and they were partnered with a California firm and were modeled after that firm. But the California firm wasn't willing to give their books and financials to show that that particular business model worked. And I don't know. I just asked. I wanted to know, where's your proof that this is going to work? If they're not willing to turn over their records, then I'm not interested in the deal, because I want to know that there's some sort of track record of success and some sort of safety net for myself and my investors. If there's, just because somebody else has done it doesn't mean that they were successful with it. And so I asked that and didn't get that.
Hmm.
But in general, I think that there's nothing that's too crazy to ask for. Again, I go
Right.
back to communication. That is the big key with all this stuff. If if the sponsor wants your money, they should be prepared to answer any question. And if they don't know the answer, that's fine too. I'm not going to hold that against them, but I want them to be able to at least direct me to the right person that will be able to answer the questions. And sometimes I feel like I have stupid questions. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but it just gives me some reassurance that they're going to be open and honest with me, or at least help me find the answers that I'm looking for.
Communication is so important, especially when you want an investor to trust you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe if a sponsor is saying no to something, that can be a very big red flag. So,
Right, right, exactly.
and then for data sourcing, for example, Airbnbs, a lot of folks use AirDNA.
Mhm.
Do you have any data sources that you find particularly useful?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. Probably a lot of the same ones that you look at: CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, Marcus Millichap. There are a lot of great data sources, and I like just looking at the raw data. There are a lot of, I would say, maybe editorialized data sources, and I give some credibility to those, but it's always somebody's opinion that's linked to it. Um, Again, there's that aspect of, I would say, research that I consider. But I also try to keep up with, I would say, not really influencers, but people who are in the know, whether they're on LinkedIn or X or other social platforms. Not necessarily for their posts, but people will say certain things, and oh, I didn't consider that, or oh, we're starting to look at a downturn here, and so it just kind of keeps my eyes open, and keeps me a little bit more pragmatic instead of just in the echo chamber of the things I want to listen to.
Yep, absolutely. And that's again where groups like intentional
Mhm.
capitalists can be so helpful and be a great resource, because you're having so many different people maybe looking at all these different data sources and then coming together and sifting through it, which
Right.
greater power in numbers.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree.
So, okay, you've walked us through kind of the overall due diligence process and maybe a couple red flags. So, there's still this huge psychology piece of it,
Oh, yeah.
right? So it's still very nerve wracking to make that $50,000, $100,000
It is.
X amount wire. So how do you ultimately trust yourself to move forward or against partnering with someone?
Yeah, great question. Um, I would say early in my investing days, I would be emotionally attached to the deal. And
Mm,
so now I've become a little bit more detached from it. I just look at the numbers. And if the numbers don't work the way that they're supposed to, I'm less forgiving.
mm,
And I just won't proceed with it. There's going to be another deal that will come along. Humans in general are emotional decision makers, and I know I am. I know I can be. And so, if I just remove the emotion from the deal altogether, then and just focus on the numbers, then I feel like I make a better decision for myself and for others. Now I can get emotional about the money that's coming in. I do. I love that part, or the tax savings, or any of those things. But I really try to detach from the analysis portion of it. I thank my medical background for that. It's helped me be very um, just data driven and looking just at the numbers or
right.
whatever the raw features are to make a real diagnosis or a determination to move forward or not. When it
Yeah.
comes to partnering with someone, the same thing. Again and again, I go back to this all the time. It's the communication. If there's anything that doesn't match up with what they're saying to me or anything like that, I do have some hesitation about moving forward with that.
Hmm.
Um, I value honesty a lot. And there are people that will stretch the truth to make their case. And it's disappointing sometimes, especially when I see a potentially good deal and the person that's running the deal is less than credible. And so, again, I'll withdraw from my interest from it. If they can't be honest with me now about this part, then what else? What else am I going to be missing in the future? Like if they're going to be generating
Right.
false financials, I've got to be very clear about all those things going forward. And one thing that I just tell investors all the time, we may not get a deal every day, and that's good. We don't want to just jump into a deal. There are deals that come along all the time, and there are hundreds of deals that come along throughout the month. And maybe one or two are worth looking into and investing in. So don't worry, you're not going to miss the best deal of of your lifetime. There's going to be the deal of the century coming around tomorrow too. So it just depends. Just be patient.
Right, right. I know it's a perfect balance between
Hmm.
being patient and then analysis paralysis. You don't want to be
True.
at either end of the spectrum. You
Right.
want to kind of be somewhere in the middle.
You're exactly right. So you've got to be ready to pull the trigger on something. But again, just it's all about getting a system that is repeatable and
Right.
reliable. And if you just stick to your rules and you just move through it and it checks all the boxes of your criteria, then it makes the decision very simple. It's very cut and dry and straightforward, especially if you like the sector that you're investing in. If it's a good deal and you like the sponsor and you like how things are going to pan out, then you can invest with confidence. But
Hmm.
if there's any hesitation, I mean, then don't do it. We have our gut feeling for a reason. Although I will tell you, for some of the bigger investments I've made, I still have a sleepless night thinking I just sent a lot of money to somebody.
Yeah.
But I put the money out there for a good reason. I know it has its purpose. The money is there to work for me, not for me to work for the money.
Right, right. That was the whole point, right?
Right? Exactly.
Yep, and I'm glad you mentioned that because for me, I almost look at my investment portfolio as a business. Like
Hmm.
here is a vision, here is a mission, here are the metrics and all that, which I think
Perfect.
helps kind of keep you in line too.
Hmm. Absolutely.
How about length of time? Does length of time knowing someone matter, or is it more of a connection or gut feeling that can play a part too?
Yeah, the length of time does help quite a bit. I mean, there are other factors that can help, especially if someone I know has known somebody for a length of time and can vouch for them, then that helps quite a bit. I do like investing with sponsors who have weathered multiple real estate cycles and know how to get out of a jam, get through those speed bumps, go through the hurdles, and still come out on
Hmm.
the other side. I like seeing that the sponsors have gone through this before and know how to solve problems. And those are the types of people that I'm looking for. So I would like to have somebody with a little bit of experience. There are people that have done a seminar in the last couple of years and all of a sudden a guru about getting multifamily real estate. I'm a little hesitant about jumping into a deal with those folks. Um, well, I'm very hesitant about jumping into a deal with them, especially if they don't have a seasoned sponsor that knows what they're doing. I mean, they can partner with somebody that knows what they're doing, and that helps their case and helps build their credibility. We all have to start somewhere, but it really helps to have someone with a track record that knows what they're doing. You have to be able to trust the team that's operating the deal, and that's what it really boils down to, is trust. And so, yeah, I always go
Right.
back to that.
Right. And I know you mentioned cycles, and
Mm-hmm.
cycles are inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
How have changes in the real estate cycle impacted your investment strategies?
Oh, great question, man. So I love the real estate cycle. History doesn't always repeat, but it does rhyme. And so there are ways to optimize your investment strategy depending upon where you are in the cycle. You can do value add in the down times and do equity growth in the good times. Fortunately, over the last 10 years, I've been very lucky of riding that wave up. And it really made me look like a genius on a lot of these deals that I selected. But again, it's all about looking at the metrics. There are different real estate cycles, whether it's industrial, commercial, multifamily, residential, and they're not always in sync. Some of them are overlapping, and there are ways to hop in different stages of those cycles to really optimize your portfolio. And it's just a matter of recognizing those key metrics and just keeping your ear out and kind of paying attention to what's going on.
And how do you maintain a conservative approach in your investment selections?
Yeah, I hate losing money. And even more than that, I hate being responsible for other people losing money. And if people are putting their trust in me to make an informed decision and show them what I think is a good deal, and if they lost their money, I would feel absolutely miserable, which is why I'm ultra conservative with the deals that I suggest or present to our group. If it's not something I'm willing to put my own money in, I don't show it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's I feel is the best testament because I'm aligned with my investors. I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Yep. And earlier at the start of the call, you even mentioned that that's important to you when
Mhm.
you invest with someone. So it's nice that you're kind of putting your money where your mouth is too, and
Right.
builds that trust, like we've been saying.
I practice what I preach.
Exactly. Can you share a pivotal moment or experience that shaped your perspective on wealth building?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I'm sure everyone's heard of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's always everybody's kind of starter investing book. I came along to that a little later in my investing journey. When I was in high school, well, I guess it was later than that. Dating myself a little bit. Um, my dad was an engineer before he retired, and I grew up in Houston. And he worked for a group called Houston Industries. And one of his big bonuses every year was other Houston Industries stocks and things like Enron and Dynegy. And his portfolio had grown significantly. When Enron was $90 a share, it looked great. After things started collapsing in the late 90s, early 2000s, that Enron stock was down to 10 cents a share. And so, fortunately, that wasn't the only thing in his portfolio, but it taught me a valuable lesson about letting other people have control over your money. I saw that in the 401k. I had no control over that. You're giving your money to a fund manager, and they're doing whatever they want to with it willy nilly. They're still making their 4 to 7% a year or whatever. And so, I really wanted to have more control over how I generated my wealth. So I started just reading, learning different things. Robert Kiyosaki's book is a great book. There are a ton of them out there. We could spend our whole podcast episode talking about different books to read. But that was really the start of what got me on the right mindset to acquiring assets instead of things. And also with the mindset of preserving my wealth through tax incentives. And so one of the biggest moments, well, for me personally, was when I stopped working and getting a W 2 income and just living off the passive income because my tax basis of my it shrunk significantly. Not quite to zero. I wish it was zero, but significantly to the point where April 15th comes around and I don't even worry. Well, I don't worry for a
Oh,
couple of
that's
reasons.
great.
Yeah, because a lot of my K1s are staggered throughout the year, so I always just file an extension anyway. But From a tax obligation perspective, I'm not concerned about what I owe or what I don't owe. In fact, oddly enough, last year was one of the largest income earning years that I had, and I got a refund from the IRS, which was kind of strange. But anyway,
Wow.
that was a little kind of a fun bonus. I mean, it wasn't a lot; it was only $800, but still, it was interesting.
Yeah, it's better than the outflow, right? We like
True,
to keep more money in our pockets.
absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you. I'm just going to hit you with three fire round questions. So
Awesome.
I'll start with what brought you joy this past week?
Oh gosh, a couple of things. The first thing that brought me joy, I saw a patient at Costco, a former patient, and she asked
Wow.
me what I was doing, where she could find me because she couldn't find me in clinic, and she was very complimentary of my former self, and she said that she was the reason, or I was the reason that she was able to turn her health around and do the things that she wanted to do, and so that was very
That's awesome.
validating for me. I mean, I love being able to make an impact for people. At least I
Mhm.
did medically, and now I'm doing it financially. Another little thing that brought me joy this week, I was running around Town Lake, and a stray dog ran up, a little cute Frenchie.
Oh,
And
so
so
cute.
we picked up the dog and didn't have a collar. And so we went down to the local animal shelter, and they were able to scan the dog, had a chip, and we were able to reunite the dog with the owner. That was two positive things this week that really kind of brought me joy.
That's a multiple acts of kindness
Yeah,
too.
I love it.
And I know we were kind of talking about food before the call, so I'm sure
Yeah.
you noticed that I'm a bit of a foodie. So, what's a top restaurant of yours
Oh gosh, globally or locally?
globally?
Globally, my favorite restaurant is a restaurant called Trebuchet. It's on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. Some
Oh,
of the
say no
most
more.
fantastic food I've ever had. I mean, also
Wow.
wine, which also could be tainting my recollection of things, and coffee. I mean, it was just an extraordinary experience. The food was fantastic. And again, we're such emotional creatures. I feel like having
Yeah.
that emotional connection when I was there, it made all the food taste better too.
Yes, Amalfi is my favorite place on earth so far. It is
Yeah,
so beautiful and the culture is so rich.
amazing.
Last question. How do you stay up to date on news or trends?
Oh, yeah. A combination of the things that we talked about earlier, the data analysis stuff. Plus, I watch a couple podcasts. My CPA, Tom Wheelwright, is fantastic at
Mm.
tax advice. He has the Wealth Ability podcast. Strongly recommend that to folks who are interested in learning how to save money on their taxes. Or, I mean, even the guys like Bigger Pockets or the Real Estate Guys
Mm.
podcast. Fantastic commentary. I love listening to what they have to say, and really just talking to other professionals that are in the industry like yourself. You hear things before a lot of folks, just because of where you're at, and just having the right network of people around you, you'll hear all sorts of stuff and be able to stay up front on all the local news.
We have a joke in our company that's like, if it's in the news, you're already too late.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
100%.
thank you. How and why should people find you?
Well, they can find me by going to intentionalcapitalist.com. They'll see my website. They can also email me directly, Gabriel at intentionalcapitalist.com, or they can call me. I'm probably one of the few people that will give their cell phone number out. My number is 512-745-3037. They can call me anytime. I'm always happy to talk to anybody. They can also text me at that number. The reason they should reach out to me, I'm always happy to help other people either learn about investing, or if they just are interested in vetted, sponsored deal flow, I can help connect people with that as well. I do have a membership for folks that want a certain level of service, but I'm happy to help anyone who wants it.
Well, thank you again. I hope everyone feels more educated and confident in the overall process for reviewing an opportunity. And until next time, adios.